Welcome to the Art of the Game podcast. I'm Reese and I'm joined by my co-host Cass. We started this podcast to explore the intersection of the sporting and creative industries and to unpack how content is being used as a driving force behind some of the world's most successful sporting teams, leagues, brands and athletes.
We spent 7 years together at the National Rugby League, building their social platforms from zero to millions. We are the founding partners of Sport Design Australia, a creative network that brings to life content for sporting organisations across the world. We're passionate about sharing how the evolution of content and the digital landscape are proving to be a force to be reckoned with when it comes to fan engagement and sporting success. We will cover a wide range of content and creative topics. We're here to share it all. We talk to designers, athletes and experts to understand the artistry behind content excellence and learn how content influences every aspect of the game. Whether you're a sports fanatic, a design enthusiast, or just curious about the creative forces behind the world's biggest games, this podcast is for you. Join us as we explore the art of the game and uncover the stories behind some of the most iconic content creations in sports history. Hello and welcome to the first episode of the Art of the Game podcast. As you would have heard in the introduction, I'm Cass and this is Reese, and we are finally here on the couch doing this.
We are. I always said I'd never do a podcast and here we are.
Here we go. So this is our first episode, guys, so we really appreciate you joining us and coming along for the ride, but also please bear with us as we launch ourselves into this world of podcasting. We together have worked in sport for over a decade, so we wanted to kind of share our story, share our experiences with you guys and share a different light onto what creative looks like in sport. So we'll delve a bit further into that a bit later on and as the podcast progresses. To start off, we thought we'd give you a bit of an overview of the business that Reese and I have co-founded. It's called Sport Design Australia, but I will handball over to Reese himself to give you a bit of an insight into what that is, how it has kind of come about, and I guess it's the reason why we're sitting here today.
Yeah, so essentially it's a creative agency specialising in sports. We work with professional sporting teams in Australia and worldwide to help elevate their content and creative output. So, a lot of AFL teams, NRL teams, cricket, netball, MMA, a bit of everything at the moment. So, the idea originally came a couple of years ago during COVID. I started an Instagram page called Sport Design Oz, essentially to promote and give young designers a bit more of a platform for them to be noticed and hopefully and ideally land a job in the sporting world. So that's originally how it came about, and as a couple of years went on, Cass and I were both at the NRL for 7 seasons. Cass held up the social team for the best part of that, and I was sort of on the creative content side, and decided it was time for a new challenge, and that's how SDA came about.
Yeah, I guess a bit further into the kind of background of that, obviously sport design started as a bit of a passion project for Reese. He's always been super passionate about developing young creators and content providers, basically giving a face to the name of all of the kind of people behind the scenes. We just were running into some challenges internally in big businesses and sporting businesses when it came to resourcing and budgeting and just kind of, I guess, the perception of content and return on investment and those kinds of things. So we knew that there was a whole lot more we could do in this space, especially within sporting landscapes that we've seen across the UK and the USA. We wanted to be kind of a part of that change and leading that change. So yeah, Sport Design Australia was kind of born and bred from that. But as I said, we'll dive into that a whole lot more as we start to introduce you to some of the great guests we're going to have on board in the next few weeks, taking us through, I guess, their experiences with us, working with Sport Design Australia, and so we can get further into that. I guess then the next evolution of the business was to start the podcast, which is why we're here. Why did we start the podcast, Reese?
I have no idea.
What are we doing here today?
I just like hearing from other creatives and other industry professionals in sport, whether that's a marketing manager or a brand lead, creative lead, designers, creative roles. Yeah, it's really good to get an insight. And, I know a lot of younger people who are looking to get into sport, really value those opinions and thoughts and really want to know, how someone got to where they are, within a sporting team or a league or, working for a sporting brand. So, we wanted to share more stories and a bit more insight into that.
Yeah, I think we've always been kind of told by people who we work with, you've got really great experiences, and we probably don't look at it from that lens. It's always been like work and a job for us, and we probably don't take a step back enough and reflect on the great stuff that we've been able to achieve. So from a background point of view, as Reese mentioned, we were both at the NRL for a period of 7 years. During that period, we were able to build social audiences and engage communities I think we got up to about 6 million cumulatively across all the channels before we left. So we've definitely done some stuff in this space. I think we probably underestimated the effect that we've had on the sporting industry for sure. As I said, we just kind of do our job day in and day out. But when you look back and reflect, I think we've got some really cool stories to tell and some great experiences to share. So yeah, everyone's always asking us to share those. So here we are. To all you people who have bullied us into doing this, we are here. And yeah, we just hope you can kind of come along on the journey with us. Let us know what you want to hear. Let us know who you want to hear from. And yeah, we'll do our best to share some info. Obviously, we're going to have guests on the podcast across the next few weeks, but I think it'd be good for the audience to get a bit of an overview on your background. You've kind of had sport in your blood for a good period of time. So do you want to give us an overview of how you got here?
Sure. Let's just kickstart it from post high school. Did a degree in journalism at Wollongong University. Really wanted to become a sports journalist. By the end of the degree, I sort of worked out that I didn't really like it. Didn't really like writing. But during that period of study, I sort of took up some work experience, internship type work at both the Cronulla Sharks and Fox Sports News. I was coaching a baseball team at the time, and one of the parents of the kids was the media manager of the Cronulla Sharks, Rob Willis. He offered me to come down and do some sort of bits and pieces 1 day a week whilst I was studying, match reports, cutting out newspaper clippings, all the stuff he didn't want to do. So I sort of took that on, and
you're still doing all the stuff no one wants to do.
Yeah, still doing all the stuff no one wants to do. So yeah, graduated from uni. Rob ended up actually leaving the Cronulla Sharks, and they were hiring for his role. Was lucky enough to take that on for a period of 2 years. It was a media and comms PR type role, but I guess that was a very early stage of social media and website sort of content. So wore multiple hats there. Was writing content, filming content, looking after the Facebook channel, Twitter channel, all that sort of stuff. And I guess that's how I sort of dipped my toes into digital. Had enough time there. Sort of came to a period where I wasn't learning anymore. We sort of had no CEO, no real direction. Packed up, went overseas for 4 months to Europe, travelled with some mates, came back, worked for a digital agency that I had a relationship with from my time at the Sharks. Was there for 3 years, Pillar Digital with Pete Cassidy and Damien Marnie. And then, ended up at the NRL as social media community manager under Matt Henry, and evolved from there and sort of ended up being the social content manager for the last few years, alongside yourself.
Nice.
Yeah.
Bit of a journey. I think mine was a little bit different. I didn't really fall into sport as easily as Reese did, but coming out of a marketing degree, I worked for Coca-Cola. I spent 5 or 6 years there working in their brand teams and trade marketing teams and digital marketing teams. And I think you mentioned it as well, but like everyone at our age when social was starting, you just become the social media expert because you're young and you're the only one with an Instagram page. So
it's still that way for a lot of businesses.
It still happens that way. But yeah, that's basically how I fell into the social and digital space. And then after leaving Coca-Cola, I went on a little bit of an expedition to the Kokoda Trail, came back and landed my job at the NRL.
Kokoda. Young and fit.
Yeah. About that.
10 years ago?
Yeah, a bit longer than that.
Did you make it?
A bit longer than that, I think.
Well, you're here, so.
Hey. So yeah, my career in sport obviously started a bit later than Reese's, but we've both been, roaming around for a period of time now and don't really see ourselves moving out of it anytime soon. Starting the business 12 months ago, obviously, we've both had a few life changes since then, becoming parents and, adulting and life and things like that. What's your biggest challenge that you've kind of noticed so far in starting a small business?
Oh, geez, that is a great question. Probably there's just so much more to running a business than pumping out content. You've got all the financial side of thing, the operations, a lot of relationship, project management type stuff. Yeah, there's multiple challenges, but it's been really rewarding and frustrating and stressful and all the feels. So, but yeah, we've had great progress in that time. We've worked with lucky enough to work with some really cool clients across multiple sports within Australia and overseas, and work with some really, really talented creatives as well, which is something I've always been passionate about, and finding these people out there, because there's so many talented creatives that are looking for work in sport, and whether they're already at working for a team or a league, or they're sort of on the cusp or studying or at that stage of taking the next step, sort of, always like speaking to other people about their journeys.
What's your biggest reward so far in starting the business?
Probably the scope and how quickly we've been able to work with such a wide variety of clients. I think, obviously coming from an NRL background, we sort of were comfortable in that space and sort of went after NRL teams and that sort of thing. But yeah, we've quickly evolved and, working with the likes of Paramount Plus, betting agencies like Bluebet, Tab, a couple of AFL clubs.
Yeah, I think hearing the validation from others that like what we're doing is a good thing, and like that we are kind of doing something in the industry that's useful for people who exist just outside of our network. The validation of that's been quite nice to be like, yeah, actually an idea that we had a little while ago has actually transformed into something that's really useful in the industry. So that's quite rewarding, I think.
Yeah, and we obviously come from more of a social background. So early on, it was all about the social graphics, template suites, and all that sort of thing. But we've had some really cool projects of late, which are well beyond that area or skill set or niche. We recently completed a lot of the creative for the Rabbitohs New Centre of Excellence with pretty cool large decal. What else have we done recently that sort of ticked off the list?
Like just working in other areas like outdoor merchandise, TV and broadcast, like just those elements of design that we probably weren't used to doing day in, day out in previous roles, but we've been able to kind of show that is required across businesses. Not everyone internally will have resource to do all of those things. So the fact that we're able to kind of be that resource extension for a lot of clubs and teams and organisations is really great. And I think, as you mentioned, our network was obviously teams and leagues because that's what we knew and that was our kind of bread and butter. But we're definitely finding that the appetite and people who are willing to invest in content is coming from those fringe businesses within sport. So sponsors and broadcasters and those that you kind of, operate within sport but don't own a sporting team or a sporting league. So I think for us, having those doors opened and being able to kind of experience sport and content from those different lenses has definitely been something that I've quite enjoyed over the last few months particularly. So I think it's important for us to obviously touch on why it's important for sporting organisations and businesses and teams and things like that to be investing in their content strategy. So I guess that was the main reason why I wanted to start Sport Design, and there is more to creating content in sport. Why do you think it's important for sporting brands and sporting organisations to be investing in this kind of stuff?
Oh, it's incredibly important. The sports market is incredibly competitive, cluttered. The entertainment market just in general is competitive and cluttered, and I guess social channels and algorithms are changing, and reach is diminishing, and you've really got to create content that stands out for people to consume it. Takes 1-2 seconds for someone to scroll past your content. So if you're not capturing someone's attention straight away, you're really going to struggle. So whether it's a cool graphic or a cool video, motion piece, illustration, it all ties back into that overarching brand piece and tone of voice for your business.
And talking about content, obviously, like we could probably just delve into the fact that content itself is not just like a photo or a video that's on social these days. Like for us, in the content landscape that we're operating in, we're doing content across, multiple facets of design. Do you want to touch on those kind of key ones that we're working with our network to deliver for sporting brands at the moment?
Yeah, so art direction is obviously a key one for us. We work with different brands on their visual identity and branding, graphic design, illustration, manipulation, and motion graphics, animation type stuff. They're sort of our main go-to. Obviously, we both have a strong social background as well in terms of social media strategy and offering. But our key focus is that sort of design space, and whether that's social content, graphics for the big screen, LED screens, decals on walls, the broadcast space stuff. We have a big and wide variety or network of content creators that we can call upon depending on a budget, brief, requirements, style, etc. So that's sort of where we slot in.
Yeah, and I think it's important to touch on the fact that resourcing in sport generally is quite limited, especially in Australian sport. Definitely that differs from the US and the UK markets in terms of the way that their teams are structured. For us as an agency, we're really keen to be an extension of your existing team and setup, and we know that being able to deliver content across all those formats, design, manipulation, illustration, animation, motion video, every designer and content creator out there will be screaming at us being like, yes, like we hear you, because they have to deliver. Mostly they'll hire one person or two people to deliver on all of those different creative
and they're stretched
outputs. Yeah,
stretched across multiple departments. We've been there before. You work with marketing departments, membership, merchandise, football, or whatever the sporting code you work for. Events, big screen, social, website, digital product, everything. Like, they're just so far stretched. And if there's only one or two designers that are working within a business, they don't have time to ideate. They're constantly, pumping out work, churning out work.
But also, you're only limited to the people, to the skill set of that one person. So, yes, you might be really great at delivering on, this part of the creative process, but you're not great at this, and they make you do it anyway, and so therefore you're not getting the most efficient and effective way of producing content, because you're making someone be something that they're not. It's basically like asking us to run out onto a football field and play 80 minutes of football. Like, that's just not what we're built to do. So it's ineffective and inefficient.
And everyone has their own style as well. So
yeah.
If you're looking for a different style, obviously that still needs to tie into the overarching brand of the business or, whoever you work for. But variety is key, I think, in the content game now. And, if you keep doing what you've always done, you're going to fall well behind. And, you see a lot of brands and businesses still creating the same content that they created 3-4 years ago, when algorithms were a lot better and you had more eyeballs on your content. So it's really important to evolve with, not just design trends, but content and creative trends, from a high level sort of point of view.
So top line, Sport Design Australia, obviously network of freelance creatives that we're bringing together to kind of meet business objectives around content. The best in the world. Art of the game, the podcast itself, we want to be able to delve further into the kind of nuances of content, the different people behind the lens of content, how content's helping, different facets of the sporting industry. That's kind of making sense. What is your goal for Sport Design Australia in the next kind of 6 to 12 months? And, what would make all of this like kind of worth it for you?
The big goal, I guess, over the next 6 to 12 months is, keep working with clients that understand the importance and value of content and want to invest, and they're not just after sort of, an ad hoc graphic here or there. They speak to us and want us to collaborate with them on big projects, bigger outputs. That's probably sort of where my head's at the moment. And then, I really want to sort of continue working with the creatives themselves and building their profiles and branding, personal brands. I think that's important. And, a lot of the guys and girls that we work with are very well established. And then we've also got, some of the new young blood coming through who are on the lookout for jobs, who are super talented and just need a chance. So, the more work we can bring on, then ideally we can spread that amongst these sorts of guys and girls. That's my aim. What's your goal, Cassandra? Besides having a baby and going on leave for again.
No, look, I think I'm super proud of where we've gotten to in the last 12 months. Obviously, starting a business is not easy. Starting a business as a new mum. So I think we've definitely had our fair share of struggles and things we've had to work through. But we're only really in our infancy. We're working with some extremely massive brands and massive organisations. I think for us in the next 6 to 12 months, being able to align ourselves with a major event in the Olympics or the Com Games or, the World. Like we've done some work in, indirectly with the World Cup, but being able to showcase what we can offer on that kind of level, I think would be a really big goal for us. But yeah, I mean, we're just ticking boxes for ourselves as a business, just getting the runs on the board, working with some really great clients, and yeah, we're really just
still getting used to running a business, to be honest.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it's a journey, and there's been plenty of struggles, and cash flow is obviously one. We don't have any investors as such yet. Hopefully that might come down the track, but we've put our own money and time into this sort of business and project, and it's been really refreshing and rewarding for us so far. So yeah, really excited to see what the the next 6-12 months and beyond brings us.
Great. So yeah, we've given you a really good overview, I think, of what the business is, why we started the business, what we're doing within the business, why we wanted to start Art of the Game, and yeah, we're just really excited to be on this journey, with you guys, with each other, and yeah, we just hope that this offers you guys some sort of, experience or information that you didn't have previously. That's pretty much our goal.
Yeah. So thanks for tuning in to this first episode. We're all ears in terms of what guests you want to hear from, whether that's here in Australia, across the world. Can be designers, creatives, marketing managers, heads of departments, CEOs, all that sort of thing. Leave us a comment on our social channels, send us a message, however you want to do it, and we'll do our best to have them on. But we've got some cool guests coming up. Really excited to share those podcasts very soon. So thanks for tuning in.